So I just saw the new Jordan Peele horror film Us, and I have some pretty mixed feelings about it. Now, I enjoyed Get Out, and I've been pretty excited for this movie. My expectations were that at the very least I'd be able to see a fantastic performance by Lupita Nyong'o, and I'm happy to say that she definitely delivered. She does an amazing job playing two different characters in this film, and quite honestly, she was the best aspect of the film for me. The performances overall were pretty great. Even the youngest children in this film were convincing and believable. The older child in the film did have a couple unconvincing moments, but they were definitely made up for over the course of the film. Tim Heidecker was a funny addition to this film because it's impossible for him to say anything without sounding incredibly goofy. There were elements of both horror and comedy in this film that were pulled off rather successfully. However, I don't feel as though it was pulled off as successfully as Get Out. Get Out was a psychological horror that had moments of comedic relief, but for this film, rather than them taking short breaks from the horror to provide comedic relief, it felt as though this film had difficulty deciding what it wanted to be at any given moment. And in some instances, it felt as though the comedy being there was at the expense of the horror. As a whole, Get Out felt much more purposeful and clearly defined, and this description is not limited to the film's tone. The same could be said about the film's plot and structure and message and themes. Much like Get Out, this is a film that does have social commentary and deeper meanings to be found within it, but it's so muddled and vaguely defined in this film that it almost feels as though it doesn't have much of a clear message at all. And it's so strange because this film is very obviously filled with purposeful symbolism and reincorporation. Every line and every prop and every character has some sort of subtle connection towards something else that appears in the film, and I really enjoy that aspect of it, but part of me also wishes that it had more of a point. For me personally, the discussion surrounding this film from those who have seen it is more entertaining than the film itself. I am very much enjoying seeing people's different interpretations and picking up on connections that I had missed on my first watch, but unfortunately the experience of the film itself wasn't engaging enough for me to want to watch it for a second time. It's very well acted, and there's plenty of shots that are visually interesting and purposeful. The film starts out very strong, but unfortunately it kind of fizzles out as it goes along. The characters in this film are very likable and fun to watch, but as soon as we got into the main conflict of the film, it honestly started getting pretty fucking boring to me. Granted, I am not a person that is easily scared, so maybe that's my bias here, but I was simply not entertained just watching these characters running around being chased by other characters. I was really enjoying watching everything being set up and developed, but once it got there, it was kind of just meh. And perhaps this would have been alleviated by the film sticking to one tone during these scenes, but it really removed a lot of opportunity for tension for me when the film kept reminding me of its lightheartedness. The soundtrack in this film was really hit or miss. The instances where they used pre-existing songs were, like other aspects of this film, very purposeful. I also really enjoyed the musical composition when they were walking on the beach, but there were also many instances in the film where the soundtrack made it much cheesier than it needed to be. There were times where the music was preventing me from feeling the emotions on screen. It wasn't terribly written, but I wish it was more restrained in how it was used. There's a pretty awesome orchestral rendition of the song I Got 5 on it, and that worked incredibly well for the film's trailer, but unfortunately the way it was used in this film felt largely inappropriate. The decision to include that during a pivotal scene was just distracting from what I was trying to experience. Alright, I'm gonna go into spoiler territory for a little bit here, so if you don't want to hear spoilers for this movie, then skip to this part in the video. There's your warning. 3, 2, 1. So right away, with the concept of this film being that there are essentially doubles of each character you see, it makes sense to expect some sort of cliched bait and switch where one of the characters isn't who you think they are, but the way that this film was developed, there was a certain point where I realized that they probably wouldn't do that with the main character because it would be really stupid, but then they did it anyway, which only raises more unanswered questions than if they didn't. Why did the original character never try to communicate this to anyone? That whole introduction explanation near the beginning feels kinda stupid now, and I get that this isn't necessarily the type of film that you're supposed to think of logically, but it's really difficult not to when the film features lengthy monologues of characters explaining these things to the audience. As soon as you include those in your film, then we're kind of forced to think about it in that way. If the film had avoided those types of explanations and remained as something that was clearly supposed to be taken metaphorically, then I might not feel the same way. There are obviously deeper meanings to what's being shown, but unfortunately the logic that this film sets up doesn't really make much sense at all, and I really would have preferred it if the twist didn't feel so contradictory and out of place. On one hand, this is a film that you can discover more about the more you think about it, and on the other, it's a film that makes less sense the more you think about it. Since we're in spoiler talk, I guess I'll go into more detail about why I didn't feel much tension in the film. As I said, these main characters are very likable and fun to watch, but for a film that aims to make you feel scared, they were almost too likable. At no point in the film did I expect they would kill any of the main family members off. When I was watching the scene with the dad and his copy fighting in the boat, I was like, yeah, they're not gonna kill this guy. Every expendable character died, and everyone I expected to live lived. So it really did not do a great job at making me feel as though there was any potential consequence for these characters. One other minor issue I had was with the titles near the beginning. First, we see a fantastic shot zooming slowly into a television set, and all of the information about the time and place is already given in this shot. We see that it's an older TV, we see images of the Twin Towers, we see the Hands Across America ad that clearly states it's 1986, and I'm pretty sure it mentions Santa Cruz in there too. But then the very next scene we get a title saying Santa Cruz 1986, but we literally just got that information. Why would you feel the need to tell us with a title that exists outside the film's universe when all of the information was already given inside the film's universe? It not only breaks immersion, but it makes the movie feel less intelligent. The present day title card was also unnecessary because it's very clearly explained that the little girl in the 1986 footage was the mom that we're seeing now. Now, I didn't really dock any points for this, but it is kind of a pet peeve of mine, especially when the immersion-breaking title card is appearing directly after the film just told us that same information. That was some 2013 old boy shit right there. Anyway, like I said, I have really mixed feelings on this film overall. There's certainly a lot of depth to the film, and there's plenty to appreciate in terms of its craft, but it was really lacking in terms of being a film experience for me, if that makes sense. There's plenty of people that get scared a lot more easily than I do, and it seems as though most people enjoy this movie. I don't regret watching it whatsoever, and I definitely recommend it. I'm really looking forward to seeing more discussion on this film online, but I really doubt that I'm ever gonna watch it again myself. Check this one out and let me know what you think. And I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10.